The garden party was already unbearable before Lydia Harper heard her name spoken like an accusation. She had been standing near the marble fountain in Mrs. Whitmore's garden, pretending to listen to two ladies discuss imported roses from New York, while her mind searched for the nearest gate. The July sun in Charleston felt too bright. The laughter felt too sharp. Every sound seemed meant for her. She should never have come. "There she is," a cold voice called out. Yet the quiet that followed was worse than the words. It was the kind of silence that meant something cruel was about to happen. Lydia turned slowly. Mrs. Evelyn Carter stood 10 steps away in pale lavender silk, her gloved hands folded neatly in front of her. Her gray eyes were steady and hard. 2 other women stood beside her, watching with open curiosity. "Miss Harper," Evelyn said, her smile thin. "How brave of you to show your face." Lydia kept her chin lifted. "Mrs. Carter." "Oh, good afternoon. Is it?" Evelyn's voice rose just enough for others to hear. "I wonder if my nephew would agree, if he were still alive." A ripple passed through the crowd. Lydia felt the familiar tightness begin in her chest. The warning sign. The moment before her body betrayed her. "I did not harm your nephew," she said softly. "Your father did," Evelyn snapped. "And you inherited everything he left behind." The words struck like a blow. 3 years ago, the 7 children in town had died within 2 weeks. Fever, convulsions, breath stolen from small bodies. Lydia's father, Dr. Samuel Harper, had treated every one of them. The last child had been Evelyn Carter's nephew. After that, whispers had turned into blame. "Your father gave them the medicine," Evelyn continued, stepping closer. "And when he realized what he had done, he drank himself into the grave and left you with the prophets." Gasps moved through the garden. Lydia's vision began to narrow. The edges of the world blurred. This was how it always happened. When fear grew too large, her body shut down. Her eyelids grew heavy. Darkness tried to claim her. Not here. Not again. "I never profited from their deaths," she managed. But the weight in her chest grew heavier. The sunlight dimmed. Just as her eyes began to close, a calm male voice cut through the tension. "Mrs. Carter, you are blocking my view of the storm." The crowd shifted. A tall man stepped between Lydia and Evelyn, as if he had every right to stand there. He wore a dark coat despite the heat, his sandy hair slightly unruly, his expression almost amused. Duke Andrew Carlisle of Virginia. He was known for strange habits, for watching the sky more than people, for speaking blunt truths when silence would have been wiser. "Your Grace," Evelyn said stiffly. "I was unaware you were attending." "I attend wherever clouds gather," he replied lightly. "And right now, there is a very interesting formation building over the river. Unfortunately, you are directly in my line of sight." A few guests laughed nervously. Evelyn flushed. "This does not concern you." "It concerns me when a lady is being attacked in the middle of a garden," he said calmly, "especially when the accusations are based on incomplete facts." Lydia forced her eyes open fully and looked at him. His gaze was steady, amber in the sunlight. My nephew died under her father's care," Evelyn insisted. "And 3 other doctors examined the children before they passed," Andrew replied smoothly. "That is also fact," Evelyn faltered. Andrew turned slightly toward Lydia and offered his arm. "Miss Harper, would you care to walk with me? The storm will begin within the hour, and I prefer to observe it from the east terrace." Her hands still trembled, but the crushing pressure in her chest had eased. "Yes," she whispered. She placed her hand on his arm. It was warm and solid. Real. They walked away together, leaving the whispers behind. When they reached the terrace overlooking the river, Andrew released her gently. "You did not have to do that," Lydia said. "Do what?" he asked, looking at the sky. Defend me. He tilted his head slightly. I defended accuracy, but in my view of the clouds, despite everything, she almost smiled. You were about to faint, he said quietly. She stiffened. I have episodes. What kind? My eyes close when I am overwhelmed. I cannot stop it. It is as if my mind refuses to see what is happening. He considered that carefully, not with judgment, but curiosity. That is not weakness, he said at last. It is protection. Your body believes darkness will keep you safe. No one had ever said that before. Most people call it hysteria, she said. Most people are wrong about many things, he replied. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. Look, he said, pointing toward the horizon. See how the clouds are darker at the base and lighter at the top? The wind is shifting. We will have heavy rain. You can tell that just by looking? Yes, patterns repeat. If you watch long enough, you learn them. He studied her then, as if she were another pattern. What happened 3 years ago? He asked quietly. Lydia swallowed. 7 children died. My father treated them all. He used the same fever remedy he had used for 20 years, but something was wrong with that batch. They worsened within hours. And your father? He blamed himself. Her voice trembled. He searched for an answer for 2 years. Then one morning, I found him in his study, a bottle of laudanum beside him. Andrew's expression softened. He left a note? He asked. Yes. And you destroyed it. She looked at him sharply. If it was known he took his own life, society would say guilt drove him, Andrew said gently. You protected him. Tears burned in her eyes. The medical board froze everything, she continued. I cannot sell the clinic. I cannot clear his name. I cannot move forward. Rain began to fall lightly. Andrew reached into his coat and pulled out a folded letter. I was planning to send this, he said. But perhaps it is better to say it plainly. He handed it to her. I need access to your father's records. I am studying weather patterns and illness. I believe there is a connection most doctors ignore. Your father documented everything. Those records matter. She stared at him. In exchange, he continued, I will use my influence to reopen the investigation into those deaths. If there was contamination, we will find it. If your father was innocent, we will prove it. Lightning flashed far off over the river. You would do that? She whispered. Yes. Why? He hesitated, then said quietly, because I know what it is to carry guilt that does not belong to you. Rain began to fall harder. My younger brother drowned when I was 15, he continued. I was supposed to watch him. I was watching a storm instead. I have spent 14 years studying the sky, trying to understand forces beyond control. Lydia felt the storm building both outside and within her. I cannot promise we will like what we find, he said. But truth is better than doubt. The rain came down in heavy sheets. Her chest tightened again. The urge to close her eyes rose fast and fierce. Andrew stepped closer. Do not close your eyes, he said firmly, almost urgently. Look at the storm. It is loud, but it will not harm you. Thunder crashed overhead. Her hands shook. Her heart raced. I am afraid, she admitted. I know, he said. Stay here, with me. Count the seconds between lightning and thunder. Focus on that. Another flash split the sky. 1, she breathed. 2, 3. Thunder roared. 3 seconds, he said calmly. It is still distant. She kept her eyes open. The rain soaked through her dress. Wind tugged at her hair. But she did not look away. "You are doing well," he said. No one had ever said that to her during one of her episodes, and she drew in a shaky breath and lifted her chin. "If we work together," Andrew said over the rain, "we will study the records from that month, every ingredient, every purchase, every note your father made. We will find the break in the pattern." "And if we discover something worse?" she asked. "Then we face it," he replied. The storm raged around them, but something inside her began to steady. "All right," she said finally. "We work together." He nodded once, satisfied. "We begin tomorrow," he said. "At your clinic, 10 o'clock. Another lightning strike flashed bright across the sky. This time, she did not flinch. Andrew looked at her with quiet approval. "You kept your eyes open," he said. She realized she had. For the first time in 3 years, she felt something other than fear. She felt purpose. And as the storm continued over the river, Lydia Harper stood beside the Duke of Carlisle in the rain, unaware that this partnership would break every rule society held dear and change both their lives forever. The Duke arrived at exactly 10 o'clock the next morning. Lydia had been awake since before sunrise, standing in her father's study with ledgers spread across the desk. The room still smelled faintly of ink and dried herbs. Dust floated in the light that came through the tall windows. She had avoided this room for months at a time. Today, she had opened every cabinet. But when the knock came at the front door, her heart jumped. Andrew Carlisle entered without ceremony, hat in hand, coat already dusted with road dirt. He looked around the small clinic with open interest, not disdain. "So, this is where the scandal began," he said quietly. "This is where my father healed people for 25 years, Lydia corrected. A faint smile touched his mouth. "Good. Defend him." He removed his gloves and moved straight toward the cabinets. "Show me the records from the month the children died." Lydia handed him the ledgers she had set aside. March of 1893. He opened the first book and began flipping pages with intense focus. His eyes moved quickly, absorbing dates, symptoms, weather notes written carefully in her father's precise hand. He recorded barometric pressure. Andrew murmured with approval. Most physicians ignore that entirely. "My father believed the body responds to the sky," Lydia said. He said storms stir more than wind." Andrew glanced at her briefly. He was correct. They worked in silence for nearly an hour. Lydia sorted patient files, while Andrew created a timeline on a large sheet of paper he had brought with him. He pinned it to the wall and marked dates carefully. 7 deaths within 10 days, he said at last. Just all treated with the same willow bark tincture. Yes. Symptoms began within hours. Yes. That suggests contamination in a single batch, he continued. Not gradual poisoning. Lydia's hands tightened around the edge of the desk. My father said the same before he died. Andrew's gaze softened for a moment, then sharpened again. Where did he purchase the willow bark? From Hargrove Apothecary in Richmond, and they supplied most rural doctors in this region. Andrew wrote the name down. Did he grow any of it himself? No, only herbs for mild remedies. Fever tincture ingredients were ordered. Andrew stepped back to study the timeline. If the bark was contaminated at the source, other physicians should have had similar cases. There were no other reported deaths, Lydia said. Which means either your father received a defective batch alone, Andrew said slowly, or the contamination occurred after delivery. A cold feeling crept into Lydia's stomach. God, you think someone tampered with it here? I think we cannot dismiss the possibility. The words hung heavy in the room. Rain began to tap lightly against the windows. Lydia felt the familiar tightening in her chest, but she forced herself to stay present. Andrew noticed. Breathe, he said quietly, without looking at her. We are examining facts, not reliving them. She inhaled slowly. He walked to the cabinet that held her father's supply records. Show me the delivery entries. Lydia retrieved another ledger. Andrew scanned the pages quickly. Delivery arrived March 3rd, he read. Signed by Dr. Harper. Stored immediately. Her throat tightened. My father rarely allowed anyone else to handle medications. Rarely, Andrew repeated carefully, but not never. She looked at him. You think someone inside town did this? I think motive matters, he said. Who benefited most from your father's fall? She did not answer at once. There was another physician, she said slowly. Dr. Charles Whitaker. He tried to open a practice here. Most patients remained loyal to my father. Andrew's eyes sharpened. What became of him? He left town 6 months after my father's death, moved to Richmond. Andrew nodded once. Convenient. Lydia's pulse quickened. You believe he did this, she said. I believe ambition can rot a man, Andrew replied evenly. And 7 dead children would certainly clear competition. The rain outside grew heavier. Lydia stepped back toward the window and looked at the darkening sky. If this is true, she whispered, my father died believing he killed them. Andrew moved closer, but did not touch her. Then we owe him the truth, he said. A sharp crack of thunder sounded above the clinic roof. Lydia flinched. Her vision blurred for a second. Stay here, Andrew said calmly. Count. Lightning flashed beyond the trees. 1, she breathed. 2, 3, 4. Thunder followed. 4 seconds, Andrew said. Still distant. She kept her eyes open. They worked through the afternoon, building connections. Andrew wrote letters to physicians in neighboring counties, requesting records of unusual child deaths during that same period. If Whitaker contaminated the supply before it reached your father, Andrew said, he would have needed access to the shipment. He visited once that month, Lydia remembered suddenly, to borrow an instrument. Andrew froze. The day? She closed her eyes briefly to think, then forced them open again. March 4th. Andrew looked at the ledger. The delivery arrived March 3rd, he said. Silence filled the room. He could have accessed the storage cabinet, Andrew continued. Added something to the tincture after preparation. Lydia's hands trembled. He would not have meant to kill them, she said weakly. Andrew's jaw tightened. Intent does not resurrect children. Rain hammered against the roof. They worked until evening. When Andrew finally gathered his papers, the clinic looked less like a place of grief and more like a war room. I will travel to Richmond tomorrow, he said. I will speak with Whitaker. I am coming, Lydia said immediately. Andrew studied her. It will not be pleasant. Neither has the last 3 years. A faint smile appeared. Very well. We leave at dawn. The next morning they rode together in Andrew's carriage toward Richmond. The sky was heavy with low gray clouds. Lydia sat beside him, hands folded tightly in her lap. You do not have to be brave all the time, Andrew said quietly as they traveled. I am not brave, she replied. I am simply tired of hiding. He nodded once. They reached Richmond by early afternoon. Whitaker's practice was located in a busy district, yet with polished windows and a brass plaque announcing his name boldly. Andrew knocked firmly. Whitaker himself answered the door. He was in his late 40s, well-dressed, his expression confident until he recognized Lydia. Miss Harper, he said stiffly. And His Grace, Andrew added smoothly. We need to discuss March of 1893. Whitaker's face paled slightly. I have nothing to say about that unfortunate incident, he said quickly. Andrew stepped forward, voice calm but sharp. You visited Dr. Harper's clinic the day after a shipment of willow bark arrived. Whitaker swallowed. Professional courtesy. And you had access to his storage cabinet. That proves nothing. Andrew leaned closer. 7 children died from contaminated tincture. You left town shortly after Dr. Harper's death, and you were deeply in debt at the time. Whitaker's composure cracked. I did not mean for them to die, he whispered. The room seemed to tilt around Lydia. What did you add? Andrew demanded. Only enough to cause mild illness, Whitaker said, voice shaking. Just enough to shake confidence. I thought patients would seek a second opinion. I did not realize the compound would become toxic. You poisoned children for business, Lydia said, her voice low and steady. Whitaker's eyes filled with panic. I never intended. But they died, Andrew cut in coldly. Whitaker collapsed into a chair. So I am ruined already. You ruined yourself, Andrew replied. He placed a blank sheet of paper on the desk. Write your confession. Whitaker hesitated only a moment before reaching for the pen. Lydia stood frozen as he wrote. Each scratch of ink felt like a blade across her heart. When he finished, Andrew read the confession carefully, folded it, and placed it inside his coat. It will be delivered to the magistrate, Andrew said. Prepare yourself. They left Whitaker in silence. Outside, the sky had darkened. Wind whipped through the streets. Lydia felt numb. My father did not kill them, she said, almost to herself. No, Andrew replied. He did not. Tears finally fell freely down her cheeks. He died believing he was a murderer, she whispered. Andrew stopped in the middle of the street and turned toward her. He did not speak. He simply pulled her into his arms and held her while the first drops of rain began to fall. She pressed her face against his chest and let the grief break loose. Thunder cracked overhead. Do not close your eyes, he murmured near her ear. Stay here. She lifted her head. Rain streamed down both their faces. For the first time in 3 years, she felt the weight shifting. Not gone, but shifting. The storm broke over Richmond as they stood together in the rain, holding the truth between them like something fragile and fierce. And Lydia understood that nothing would ever be the same again. Dr. Whitaker's arrest shook Charleston before the week ended. The confession Andrew delivered to the magistrate spread through town faster than summer lightning. By the time Lydia stepped outside her clinic 3 days later, people were already whispering. But the whispers had changed. No longer murderer's daughter. Now it was tragic victim. Wronged family. Poisoned practice. Lydia did not know which title felt heavier. Whitaker's trial was swift. His written confession left little room for defense. He admitted to entering Dr. Harper's clinic under the pretense of professional courtesy. He admitted to tampering with the tincture. He admitted that ambition and debt had driven him to reckless cruelty. He claimed he never meant to kill anyone. The judge did not find that comforting. Lydia sat through the proceedings with her hands folded tightly in her lap. Andrew sat beside her, silent and steady. Every time the courtroom began to blur at the edges, every time the noise grew too sharp, she focused on his breathing beside her. Stay present. Keep your eyes open. When the verdict was delivered, guilty on all counts, Lydia felt no triumph, only a hollow release. It was over. But grief did not disappear simply because truth had been found. After the trial, Evelyn Carter came to the clinic alone. She looked smaller than Lydia remembered. Older. The sharpness in her posture had softened. Miss Harper, she said quietly, I have come to ask your forgiveness. Lydia stood behind her father's old desk. My nephew trusted your father, Evelyn continued, her voice trembling. "And when he died, I needed someone to blame. I chose you. I attacked you publicly. I tried to destroy what remained of your family's name." Lydia's chest tightened, but she did not look away. "You did," she said calmly. Evelyn nodded, tears slipping down her face. "I was wrong, and I will correct it publicly." "Then do that," Lydia replied. "Tell the truth as loudly as you once told the lies." Evelyn straightened. "I will." When she left, Lydia sat heavily in her chair. Andrew entered moments later, having waited outside. "Well?" he asked gently. "She will speak for us," Lydia said, "but it does not undo what happened." "No," Andrew agreed. "It does not." He walked to the window and looked at the sky. Storm clouds were building again. "You are quieter than usual," he said. "I thought I would feel lighter," she admitted. "Instead, I feel untethered." He turned toward her. "For 3 years, you were defined by accusation," he said. "Now that it is gone, you must decide who you are without it." "And who am I?" she asked softly. He walked closer. "You are a physician's daughter who understands medicine better than half the licensed men in this state. You are stubborn. You are brave, even when you do not feel it. And you are someone I admire deeply." The air between them shifted. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance. "You should not say such things," she whispered. "Why?" "Because society already believes I trapped you for protection." Andrew's mouth curved slightly. Society believes many foolish things." He stepped closer still. "Lydia," he said quietly, "I need to speak plainly." Her heart began to race. "When I stepped between you and Mrs. Carter that day in the garden," he continued, "I did not intend to break rules. I did not intend to care." He exhaled slowly. "But somewhere between storms and ledgers and confessions, I began to look forward to your presence more than to any weather pattern." Lightning flashed in the distance. "I have broken every social expectation already," he said. "I have defended you publicly, traveled alone with you, stood in rain with you. I find I do not regret any of it." Her hands trembled. "You deserve someone proper," she whispered. "Someone without scandal attached to her name." "I deserve someone who keeps her eyes open in storms," he replied firmly. The thunder grew louder. "Andrew," she said softly, testing his name. His expression changed at the sound of it. "Yes, I am afraid. Of me? Of losing this? Of believing I can be happy again?" He stepped close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "I cannot promise you a life without storms," he said, "but I can promise I will stand in them with you." Rain began to fall against the clinic windows. Her chest tightened. The old instinct rose again, sharp and familiar. "Close your eyes. Hide." Instead, she looked directly at him. "What if I fail?" she asked. "What, you already proved you will not," he replied. Another crack of thunder shook the building. She flinched but did not close her eyes. Andrew reached for her hands. "Do not close your eyes," he whispered. "Not now. I am terrified," she admitted. "So am I." For a moment, they simply stood there, rain pouring outside, the world loud and uncertain. Then she did something she had not done in years. She chose. "I do not want you to step back," she said clearly. "If this costs me comfort, so be it. I am tired of shrinking." Relief flickered across his face. "Good," he said softly. He reached into his coat and withdrew a small velvet box. Her breath caught. "I was going to wait," he said, "until the trial ended, until society calmed, until everything was sensible. And now? I have never been sensible about anything that mattered." He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold ring set with a pale gray stone that looked like captured stormlight. "Marry me," he said, but not dramatically, not loudly. Simply. "Marry me because you challenge me, because you refuse to hide, because I cannot imagine studying another storm without you beside me." Tears filled her eyes. "They will say I pursued you for status," she whispered. "They will say I am reckless," he replied calmly. "Let them speak." Thunder crashed directly overhead. Her heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to close her eyes and disappear from the magnitude of the moment. Instead, as she looked at him, "I choose you," she said. He slid the ring onto her finger. Rain streamed down the windows as he pulled her into his arms. When he kissed her, it was not hurried or desperate. It was steady, certain, like a promise made in bad weather. The scandal arrived exactly as expected. Newspapers wrote about the Duke of Carlisle's unsuitable attachment. Society ladies whispered behind fans. Invitations vanished. Andrew did not retreat. He attended gatherings with Lydia on his arm. He introduced her proudly. He spoke openly of her skill and intelligence. Mrs. Carter kept her word as well. At every event, she corrected anyone who repeated old accusations. Slowly, the tone of the whispers changed again. From scandal to fascination, then to respect. Lydia reopened the clinic fully under her own name. Patients returned, some cautiously, others eagerly. She worked beside Andrew on his research about weather and illness. Together, they published a paper that drew attention beyond Charleston. On the night before their wedding, a violent summer storm rolled across the countryside. Instead of hiding indoors, Lydia stood on the wide porch of Andrew's estate, watching the lightning cut through the sky. He joined her quietly. "Still afraid?" he asked. "Yes," she said honestly. "Of what?" "That something will take this away." He slipped his hand into hers. "Then look at me," he said. She did. "Good, I am here," he continued. "Storm or no storm." Thunder shook the earth. She felt the panic try to rise, but this time she stayed. "I am here too," she said. The rain poured down around them, soaking their clothes, but neither moved. For the first time in her life, fear did not control her. The next day, under a clear sky washed clean by the storm, Lydia Harper married Andrew Carlisle in a quiet ceremony, attended by those who truly mattered. When he leaned close during the vows, he whispered words only she could hear. "Thank you for keeping your eyes open." She smiled through tears. "Thank you for giving me something worth seeing." Years later, when storms rolled across the horizon, they would stand together at the window with their young daughter between them, but teaching her to count the seconds between lightning and thunder, teaching her that fear is not something to flee, it is something to face. And every time thunder cracked across the sky, Andrew would squeeze Lydia's hand gently and murmur the same words that changed her life. "Don't close your eyes,"